broadcast with Amanda, Shandy, and Colleen. My name is Colleen.
My name is Amanda.
And I'm Shandy.
And welcome to the show, everybody. This is Season 3, Episode 21, also known as Episode 121. This is our In the Dark show.
In the dark, in the light.
In the light, in the dark.
Isn't it 111?
Oh, 111? What did I say?
I don't know. I'm not the number.
121. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It's our 111 show.
It is our 111 show. It's our 321 111.
Oh, I can't believe that. Oh, thank you so much, Shandy, for bringing that to my attention.
3, 2, 1, Brian.
Yes.
3, 2, 1,
Oh,
Brian.
that was better. Yours was better. Do it again.
111. Everybody,
I like it.
everybody, kiss your iPod and make a wish. You know?
iPod.
I don't know. iPhone?
Whatever you're listening to us with, you know. If
Kiss
this,
your
you know, maybe you are listening to us in the past, and it's like 2010, and you're listening on your iPod.
Whatever. Okay, kiss your iPhone
Well,
and make
I mean,
a wish.
yeah.
11,
It's not linear, right?
Nobody.
Exactly.
Nobody.
I'm watching.
Wait, does nobody do that? Is that not a thing anymore at 11:11 to kiss the clock?
Oh, no, 11:11 is absolutely true.
Okay.
My mom likes to push it. She likes to do like 1:11, and I'm like, I don't think that really counts.
I do 111, which is what we're doing right now. 111.
I don't think that really counts.
Make a wish.
I refuse. I don't want your half wishes.
Oh my gosh. In the world full of negative shit, which we are about to get into for an hour, you can't take a minute and break your stuffy rules. I suppose you don't do punch buggy no backsies at the new punch bugs. It's just the old ones. Are you that much a stickler?
Sorry. What is a punch bug?
Punch buggy no backsies?
Well, we said punch buggies, no punch back. But no backsies is quicker, so I like yours better.
A lot of punching going on.
You have no idea what we're talking about, Shandy? Whenever you see
Are you talking about...
Volkswagen bugs, when you see one, you go, punch buggy no backsies, because you saw it
See,
first.
there's a thing that we said for that, but it definitely wasn't punch buggy. Because punch buggy? Like, what?
Clearly-
It's not what the car is called.
I don't know. Clearly, this is a regional thing, how you say things. Long Island said it different than Connecticut, who said it different than Montana.
And now I can't for the life of me remember how we said it, but
Um,
there was also a thing of one headlight was out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can't
that's a
remember what
thing,
that was
too,
called, though.
with the one
That had a
headlight.
name.
I love that song, though, by the Wallflowers.
I'll listen to it now. I appreciate it.
It's kind of like, though, the punch buggy thing, or the different regional
Punch
things.
buggy.
The time that I discovered that Jay says, beans, they're good for your heart, wrong. I've always said, beans, they're good for your heart. The more you eat them, the more you fart. And
No, beans, the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot.
okay, there you go. See, that's how Jay had always heard it. And we put a poll on the patrons group, maybe where the main Jay and Jack Facebook group, and apparently I was very wrong.
Also, beans are not a fruit. So that's very wrong, too.
Sorry, my microphone just made a farting noise.
How do beans grow? Fartgate, whatever. I need to answer this question.
Hey Siri,
I feel like we could ask.
Hold on, she's gonna
We could
tell.
ask like a
bean expert.
with the bean, not the bean plant, but the bean stalk, and he
Jack.
Peter Pan, not Peter Pan.
Yeah, Jack and the Magic Beans.
Jack and the Magic. Okay, yeah, there you go.
Or Jack and
We
the
need
Beanstalk.
to have a if there are any listeners out there that is a farmer and would like to come on the show and talk about how beans grow.
If you're a bean farmer, particularly,
I'm very interested in talking to you. You can be the 11th broad.
yes, for 111.
Perfect. My family back in the day farmed beets, but not
Like
beans.
Dwight? Like Dwight?
Yeah, actually, like Dwight. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
In Eastern Montana, it
You
was
can look back in your family tree and make sure there's not a shroot in there.
we are of German stock. So
Beans.
I believe they were Pennsylvania Dutch.
okay. So
What was it?
Yeah, probably
Bears,
not.
beets, Battlestar
But like
Galactica.
Eastern Montana has, like I don't know, Mennonites. It's close, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Mennonites
That is
and
very
the
close.
Amish are fairly closely aligned.
Not same, but almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times. Good times. How was everybody's Thanksgiving? Filled with pies?
I didn't have any pie, but holy shit. Holy shit, did I have the best dessert ever. And I almost took a picture of it.
I don't want to hear anything about it.
I want to know. Tell me.
I almost took a picture of it and posted it on the Instagram. And then I was like, no, I'm like leaving my phone in my purse. Like, I'm just being present in the moment. And this is really fucking good. I don't need a picture to remember what it was. And here I am a couple days later, like, well, it was really good. And there was a lot of chocolate, but I kind of wish I had a picture to jog my memory. So
cool.
It was not pie, but it was like cake with like chocolate fudge.
So was it like the chocolate chess pie that I was talking about last week?
No, like it wasn't pie at all, but it was.
No,
it was
it's
like
a cake
chocolate.
though. Chocolate chess pie is like a cake, isn't? It's got.
Or was it like a trifle?
Oh fuck! Before, sorry. Damn it!
Episode title.
I had the perfect sign off last week that I kept saying, don't forget to say it, Colleen, don't forget to say it. And then I hedged around at the end because I couldn't forget to say it. And instead I said peace, love, and pie. But before that, the whole episode, I was like, I was going to say, I'm Colleen, don't forget not to put beef in the trifle. And I forgot. And it would have been funny if I could have remembered it.
Well, put it down for next year.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to put beef in the trifle.
Yep.
Sorry.
Peas and sauteed onions.
Jam, good.
Good. Lady fingers.
Good. Okay, sorry, Shandy. So, pie, chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake with this amazing heated chocolate sauce is like hot. Also chocolate chip cookies, like also like just in there because I put it on the side and then put the chocolate sauce on it. It was so fucking good. But I had a good Thanksgiving. I ate a shit ton all weekend. That's all I did. I went to the Central Valley. It was my first time in Central Valley. Just like set down shop and ate.
Nice.
For 3 days straight. Had Thanksgiving. Next day I had raclette. And then the next day I had Korean barbecue. It was intense.
So here, because I saw those pictures with the raclette. Now, did you do just the raclette cheese, or did you do it with the traditional, with like the heating thing, and you just slide the hot cheese down onto your eating the receptacle plate?
Oh, that's the only way we do it.
So where do you own the heating thing?
We own the heating thing. I got that for Frank for his birthday or Christmas or something, like the first or second year that we were in the US, because he also had one in France, but like we didn't bring it because, you know, the electricity conversion, whatever, it's not the same.
Right.
Voltage, whatever.
Right.
So yeah, no, and you know, anyone can get it if you want to shop through Amazon and support, you know, the podcast.
JaneJack.com/Amazon.
Because I had this question. So I was at a baby shower a couple weeks ago, and my friend whose baby it was works in the cheese industry, in the Swiss cheese industry. So like,
perfect.
I have come to know raclette through her, and had like the caterer had the whole setup with the raclette and the big giant half wheel of cheese, and was like doing the whole thing. And it was the first time I'd ever actually had it.
And were you like, this is heaven?
Yes, it was great. It lived up to everything, but it was cold on the hot cheese like congealed pretty quickly. But thankfully, I like congealed cheese, so it was fine. But the question arose: what is raclette? Is it the type of cheese, or is it the art of the heating mechanism and the heating of the cheese?
So I feel like I can kind of provide an answer to this.
Okay.
So the dish is like from the Alps, and it's something you eat, you know, like when you go like skiing and it's like winter and you need something hearty, and because it's really fucking hearty. But like racler, the verb means like to scrape. And so you can see then why it's called a raclette, because you either, like you said, there's the thing where you have like the whole, like the wheel of cheese with like a heating element on both sides. I've had that at a restaurant. It was like for 2 people, and we each had sort of like, you know, in sort of like a triangle form that it's like coming down towards you, and you put your plate under and you racle it, you like scrape. Yeah. Or like the machine that I have that you can also buy online. It's not even too expensive. There's a lot of different kinds, but you can probably go in for like $50-$60. You heat up the cheese, and then you also, mostly it just like falls onto your plate. But you might need to scrape it a little bit to help it along. So like the name comes from the scraping, and then the cheese is called raclette cheese, and because it's just the specific cheese for raclette.
It's the way it melts.
And there's something about the way it melts. Like we experimented, we got a little bit of Fontina,
the Italian.
Fontina.
Yeah.
Yes, got a little bit of that just to like try to be a little daring, and realize that like it's really like that cheese is really delicious. But once you heat it up, the way that the oil separates from the cheese, it's just not the same. Yeah, it's just not the same. So there's something about that particular cheese, and I would assume that's why it's been dubbed raclette cheese, because that's what you should use.
Cool.
So I don't know if that answers the question, but
No, it does. And I think that's kind of roughly what my friend was saying. But again, it was like her baby shower. So she couldn't like stop and like, give us a full tutorial on the history of raclette. She, had guests and, was, lugging around a like 8-pound, carry-on. She's pregnant.
Yeah. Get it.
yeah.
The baby. I mean, the baby's not that
Well,
big yet, but,
Yeah. But
Now I know. Now I know. I've got it.
now you can discuss it with her and feel educated
Exactly.
on cheese.
Yep, we all learned a lot today.
Oh.
Yep.
But anyway, my Thanksgiving was quiet. My big highlight was seeing Hamilton.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Great. Looks like you had a really great view.
We had a great view. I'm so glad that I snatched those tickets up, because they were on Ticketmaster for a good like 3 hours that I went back and forth deciding, and anybody that passed on them definitely missed out, because it was great seats. We were in the mezzanine. We were towards the back of the mezzanine, but we still had a really great view of the stage. I had just gotten my new contacts and glasses the day before, so I was able to actually see it. It was wonderful.
Nice.
Which I have to tell you another day, this story of me getting my new glasses. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It was great. There was day drinking, and okay, so I was hoping to tell this story before Jay came downstairs to overhear it, but it's too late. So, so here we are. Because I only took out my phone one time after the show started, and it was to write down this note so I would not forget it. Okay, there were two things actually. So the first thing, because I'm hoping that Jay will stop paying attention now, the first thing was we were waiting to line up to get in. So we got there at 1:00 and they didn't open the actual, so you can go in the lobby, you can get merch, you can get a drink, whatever. So we're like a half a drink in, or waiting to get to our seats because we were going to just put our like jackets down and whatnot, and then just take our drink and then look at the scenery and walk around or whatever. And it's 1:30. It's supposed to open at 1:30, and it wasn't open yet. And it was like 1:32, and we were like, like, does anybody know why it's not open yet? And this guy behind us, or next to behind us, goes, he goes, well, I don't know, but apparently immigrants also get in first. Because the line.
Oh, he's going to be so mad going to see that show.
Yeah.
Poor dude.
So
he didn't even know what he got tickets to go see.
Shandy, the line in the show is "Immigrants, we get the job done."
Right.
And it's like, apparently immigrants also get to go in first. And if I was only a half a drink more, if I had only finished my first drink at 1:30 in the afternoon, I was going to turn to him and be like, well, somebody's got to go first. But I didn't, because his wife and daughter promptly like backhand slapped him and was like, shut up, stop it. Like not across the face or anything, like just like bam, like, shut up, stop it. And I was like,
it was shameful.
Yeah. Because he clearly meant it not as a joke, like he meant it like in a way.
Yeah.
Just based on their reaction. Like, because at first I was like, maybe he's just bad at joke delivery, but no. Not based on their reaction. So that was the one thing. And then the second thing was Jay barely drinks anymore, right? And you know how you could tell when somebody's like buzzed and having a good time. It's not when they start to sing along with the melody. It's when they start to try to sing along with the harmony.
Or that's just how you know you're hanging out with like a musical person.
And it was really adorable and funny. But I was also like, shh, this isn't a concert. It's a show. People don't
Also,
sing along.
you
It's not
didn't
Rent.
listen to the soundtrack beforehand. You don't know it.
Well, he did know. I did get him to. I got him to listen up to like the Skylar Sisters song. So he was, we had the first like 15 minutes down.
Oh, that's a bummer because so many of the best songs come after that point.
Yes. Well, actually, he did say that he liked the music in the second half better.
I still attest, Wait For It is one of the best songs ever written. That's it. I said it. I stand by it.
It's a great song. Although I do believe that when we were talking about favorite songs or favorite lyrics from a song, wasn't your favorite one of your favorite lyrics, I'm not going to waste my shot or something like that? It was
No, it's probably from Wait For It, where it's like, it's like life doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It's like, or it's death doesn't discriminate. It's just like that whole idea. It's just, I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah. I just remember one of your
I
favorite
also
quotes
like,
came from Hamilton.
don't modulate the key and not debate with me. But I just think that's really just fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Good times. But it was great. The whole show was just, it was fantastic. We had a great time.
Awesome.
And that
Who
was
cried
it.
first?
I don't know. I'm not sure who cried first because once I started crying, I went like this, like I put my hair down like this and leaned forward a little bit. And, but me, I was done by burn. I was like, men are the worst.
That was actually probably one of the moments that really sticks out, like towards the end, in those really quiet moments in between action, you can just hear across the audience, like just people stifling sobs.
Yep. Well,
Because it's like when you to see it stage, it's very, very moving.
yes. And I was so into it, and Jay was too, that we both like watched it practically breathing down the neck of the person in front of us.
It's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This
we
is
were
bothering you.
super annoying about it, but yeah, I don't know. It was a really, really fun show. It was great. I would love to see it on Broadway, or if the tour ever came back, I would love to see it again. And this time I would hopefully get tickets that weren't, resale tickets. But I have to imagine, because Jay found a pair of tickets on the floor when we were leaving that he I guess picked up and gave me, like the next day at home. And it said $4.98 on the ticket. Like as the cost, and I only paid $2.50 per ticket, which is still a lot of fucking money. But,
Right.
yeah. So I don't know. I got lucky. That's why I'm really glad that I snatched those tickets up, because I will never get that lucky again. But there's something to be said for being like the super anal person that keeps the StubHub and Ticketmaster tabs up and just refreshes them every couple of minutes, like
Yep.
for weeks.
No, I'm so glad you guys got to see it. I'm so glad.
Me too. But all right, we should get into our main event, and that is our discussion about the podcast In the Dark.
Oh yeah, by the way, my Thanksgiving was good too.
Oh shit! I thought you talked about it.
No, I just talked a lot about raclette.
Oh, okay. Well,
I've
please.
just interrupted everyone else's
No,
story. I didn't
no,
even talk
no.
about my own. But to be brief, it was fine. The Branford Christmas parade, as per usual, exceeds expectation. There was less. We didn't have the entire firefighter fleet of fire engines this year because there was an actual fire that they had to go put out. I think everyone is safe, but I think the house is not so much.
Oh no!
But yeah, it was. It was fun. The only pie I had was apple pie, so it wasn't that pie filled.
The best pie.
But my homemade vegetarian gravy was on point.
It looked good.
It
on
looks
Insta.
good.
It is always very delicious. I'm always very pleased with how it comes out.
Yay! That's what she
Okay,
said.
now we can move on.
Okay, well, let's move on. Let's move on. We have our discussion about In the Dark. We are going to be joined by our favorite DP specialist, Brian. in just a moment. And if you are so inclined, please go listen to season 2 of In the Dark after you finish listening to us. If you don't really care, give a listen to to this discussion anyway, because it's actually pretty interesting. We give our reasons at the end of why you should go back and then listen to In the Dark. It's spoilery, but it's not super spoilery, right? Would you guys say it's like middle spoilers? Yeah. Like, we don't give away plot points, but we do.
Well, there's so much information,
right?
Yes,
well, and it's also like a ongoing case, so it's it's not like ruining the end of like
it's
a Harry Potter movie,
exactly.
Right.
Although
anything we talked about is out in the world and easily findable in events.
And can I make a case or just
sure
a comment for our favorite DP specialist as an episode title? I don't know if that's insensitive.
I will ask.
Well, I don't think that he would think he's the one that made that joke the first time.
Right. I think he'd be fine with it.
All right, cool. All right, but stick around. The interview is about 50 minutes long if you want to skip ahead. We do go into some fun things that are not In the Dark related for a few minutes when it's over. So if you want to join us for that. Otherwise, we will see you for the listener feedback section in a little while. Okay, we're just going to get into it. Okay, but seriously. And now it is a time that we have all been waiting for, and that is our discussion of the podcast In the Dark, Season 2. We have with us a very special guest, our favorite DP expert, the wonderful Brian. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Hey, it's great to be here. I'm glad to finally be on the broadcast, to be an honorary broadcaster.
Woohoo!
All right.
It is an honor that we do not extend to a lot of men.
It's true.
I know, and I greatly treasure this. So, to the bah humbug men of the Ramblecast, I will gladly lay my gauntlet with the broadcast. So,
Nice.
You know where it's at. And everybody out there, I guess, I forgot to mention this earlier. If you're listening to this now, check the artwork on your podcast app or wherever you're listening to this, because we have updated artwork and it's pretty awesome. It's for the holiday season. Thank you, Jacob. You're the best.
Speaking of great men in our lives.
Speaking of great men. But anyway, all right. Do you want to just get into it? That's what she said. But in all seriousness, Brian, first, why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners who may not know you, why you're an expert to come on and talk about In the Dark. And for anybody who's unfamiliar with In the Dark is a story of a man named Curtis Flowers who was arrested, charged, convicted of the murder of 4 people in a furniture store in Winona, Mississippi.
Yes.
And essentially, he's been tried for the crime 6 times, and it's either ended in a mistrial or a hung jury. He's been convicted at least 2 of the trials, right? And the Supreme Court of Mississippi has overturned it for various reasons. So this guy's been sitting in jail for 21 years since 1996 or 97. The murders happened July 1996. He's been sitting in jail this whole time, just back and forth, ping pong ball of the system, I guess, so to speak. And Madeline Barron, who hosts the podcast, and her team of stellar female producers, might I add, went and lived in Winona, Mississippi for over a year to report on the story, and their findings on it are absolutely incredible. Now, I'm sure to the layperson, which would be Shandy, Amanda, and I, we find it incredible, but I'm sure Brian has seen some shit that he's like, yeah, this is what happens. But I will let you take it from there to introduce yourself with your creds.
Well, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I have been for 22 years, and most of the time these days I teach capital training. I teach at the National Criminal Defense College, and I manage a part of the state of Kentucky public defender's offices and handle often murder cases and death penalty cases, and have been in the midst of a couple of high-profile ones right now. And for obvious reasons, I won't talk about those or mention those because they're ongoing. But let's just say I have seen some stuff, and this reporting was phenomenal and goes above and beyond. I urge anyone out there to listen to this and listen to Serial Season 3 if you want a look into the criminal justice system that is about as close as a layperson can get inside of it.
Amen. All right. So how do we want to start this? The story was incredible. I mean, yeah. So are we... Yeah, should I ask the most insightful question, which is, you guys think that Curtis did it, or after hearing the whole story?
I don't think I ever thought he did it.
Yeah. Well, still was definitely the wrong word to ask. I'm no Madeline Barron, okay?
Right. Well, and I guess my question for all of you guys, because before we decided we were going to listen to this podcast, I had actually never heard of this case before. And I don't know if that's just my own
I had not either.
Ignorance of not being as up to date on the news as perhaps I should have been. But it that does seem kind of like a real crime in and of itself, that it isn't a more widely talked about case.
Right. Well, and I think that's just it. I don't think that this was really in the news. I mean, of course, local news, but even Madeline Barron had said, I just listened to the latest update episode that came out today. And one of the questions that they were asked was about how common is this? And I'm sure Brian can speak to that more. But as she mentioned that the way they start, or maybe I saw this on the website, whatever. It doesn't matter.
No, they talked about it today.
Okay. Because the way that she originally heard about the case was that somebody just wrote to them. And I don't know if it was when they were maybe coming off of season 1 and soliciting ideas, or if it was just out of the blue, but somebody wrote to her and was like, oh, hey, there's this guy in Mississippi who's been tried 6 times. And that's how they started looking into it too. So it wasn't like they just had this, at least from what I understand, it's not that they just had this knowledge of, this as a current event. Because I don't think really anyone outside of Mississippi maybe
Well,
did.
essentially, that's how Serial Season 1 got started, or Serial in general, was Rabia was just wrote in, right?
Well, I think Serial Season 1, Sarah Koenig, when she first began reporting, she was reporting in Baltimore at the time.
Okay.
So she had covered it for a local newspaper at the time, and then maybe someone had gotten back in touch with her after the fact.
Okay.
To inspired her to restart the story, but I could be wrong in that.
No, it doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there.
Right,
Brian, why don't you tell us your thoughts on the whole thing based on your real life experiences?
Yeah, and how common is this sort of thing? I understand that not a lot of people get tried 6 times, but how common is it to be tried multiple times?
Or just to blatantly have a district attorney of a town come after you because MAGA.
Who seems like the devil incarnate.
Oh my God.
right.
Yes.
Or
It's
just very hyper racist.
It's not as uncommon as you would think, for the reason that's spelled out very well today in the update today, and that is that elected local prosecutors are really unanswerable to anyone. And as long as they remain there, they can do what they want. And, I think it would be interesting to see what the Mississippi Bar Association does, but I doubt they'll do anything. As a defense attorney, I find it frustrating when you see a case like this that has so much in it that spurs the public interest, and that this is not a case standing on its own that's emblematic of a larger problem, that there really isn't accountability and responsibility for things happening in the system all the time. And what I hope people take away from this, and what I hope they take away from things like Serial, is that, are most people charged with a crime? Are most of them guilty of something? Most of them are. But are there innocent people in prison? Yes. Are there people in the system that lie? Yes. Are there prosecutors that hide evidence? Yes. And that's an abstract problem until somebody you love or care about is in that situation, and then it's not so abstract anymore.
Yes.
It's personal and it's real. And it's hard for us to accept that this happens, because if we do, then it could happen to us, and therefore we keep it at arm's length.
Right. We've
I
and we've talked about this concept a lot, where a lot of times until something happens to you, you don't care about it. And that's a crude way to put it, because I'm sure you can be empathetic, or you're not. I don't know.
Well,
Well, it's that whole parable. Like, they came for my neighbor, I did nothing.
Yeah,
and when
yeah,
they
yeah.
came for me, there was no one to stand up. Yeah.
And this is where I would argue that as a phenomenon is more prevalent in one party than the other. But the thing with Curtis Flowers too is that, I mean, I think I agree with the overall sentiment that he doesn't sound like he's guilty. There's definitely some really shysty things that went on, and so this man, like, basically they stole his life.
Yeah.
You only get to live once, and they have stolen his life. That's mind blowing. Again, when you bring it back to the personal and you put yourself or somebody that you love in those shoes, and you think, wow, like, his entire life has been stolen from him. And even if he does one day get out, like they were saying on the Q&A today, will he go back and live in, the town where he grew up?
Right. He still can't go home.
He can't. People would fear for his life. So, like, even if he gets out,
a pastor's house. I mean, there's no way as soon as he gets out of jail, he goes back to that town, they're not going to lynch him.
Yeah.
No, the real sad thing is, quite often defendants in these type cases, not only do you lose your freedom and all the things that go with being convicted, but if you ever do get out, if you're in a state that doesn't offer compensation, if you're wrongfully convicted, oftentimes, they make you plead guilty to something.
Oh, like the Alfred plea?
To get out, like the West Memphis 3.
Yeah.
You get to say you didn't do it, but guess what? You're convicted. You're a convicted felon. A lot of times people have filed wrongful death suits against you, like, the estates of survivors.
Yeah.
That means that if you ever come into any money, it can be taken from you. And,
sucks.
I talked to, I think I was talking to you all about this podcast, and I'm in a case that someday I hope to be able to talk about, where something very similar to this case is going on right now, and it's weighed hard on us as the attorneys, because we've got to know our client very well.
Right.
And he is, we believe, an innocent man. And there's actually an interesting story to it that someday probably will come out, but it caught some attention of people, and we were followed by some documentarians for about a year. The problem was we lost our trial date because of some maneuverings of the other side. And so the people following us sort of had to go chase another story, because they couldn't sit on us while we waited to get a trial.
That sucks. So you
see the toll on your client, and we've got a client whose kids have grown up. He didn't get to see their youth.
Oh my God, you can never get that back. Yeah,
his parents' estate was taken by relatives. There's things that happen that, if your client comes out the other side, even if they get their freedom, what does that mean?
Right. What does freedom even look like at that point?
Right.
It's funny.
So it's a very complicated question.
Talking in, like, documentaries, and this is, like, way off the topic. I'll bring us back, I promise. I've been on record. I truly think that Adnan did it for Serial. And I've read some very compelling cases that I think Stephen Avery also did it for Making a Murderer. But I'm fully on team
Curtis. Team Curtis?
I'm on Team Curtis. I don't think that he did it. And there's
Well, you have to at least say there's no way you believe Brandon Dassey confessed. That
Oh
he
yeah.
wasn't
No.
coerced.
I definitely Brandon Dassey at the very. I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm like a 9.5 out of 10 that Adnan did it, but I'm more of like a 7 out of 10 that Stephen Avery did it. But Brandon Dassey was definitely, I think, coerced by everybody, and their mother took advantage of him in some form. But anyway,
I don't know who that is. Is that Making a Murderer? I haven't seen it.
Okay. Anyway, sorry. We can talk about this at the end, Brian, just to bring us back to this, because I also have another nitpicky thing, and that, again, has nothing to do with the actual case, but I'll save that for the end. Anyway, sorry, Brian. I cut you off. Let me let you finish, and then I'm going to let you finish, but...
You purposefully did a Matt's What She Said, didn't you? I saw the look in your eyes.
I think she matched what she said
She did that
herself.
purposefully. No, the
I was doing a Kanye.
Kanye. Okay. The thing I took away from it is that Curtis Flowers has evidence, extremely compelling evidence of innocence, that I believe absolutely if a jury heard all that, and if a jury was correctly composed and the prosecutor didn't strike everyone who looked like him,
Yeah.
I think it would be near to impossible to convict Curtis Flowers. Not to mention how many cases do witnesses get on cell phones in prison and say they lied? I mean, some of the most compelling stuff was the work that Madeline and her team did to find the person in jail who was there at the time that was the alt perp.
Yes.
Yeah.
A jury person told me one time, and I always try to teach lawyers this and remember this, that if you go to trial and your strategy is like just to say, oh, there's reasonable doubt, if the state has this person, they're saying they did it, jurors want to know who you think did it. If it's not them, who?
Right.
I think that Madeline's team, and I think if you watch Making a Murder, Kathleen Zellner said something similar in season 2. If a juror is sitting there and they're not sure and they're arguing with other jurors and the juror says this person did it and the state said it, if you're the juror trying to persuade them otherwise and you don't have somebody to give them, that hurts your argument in the jury room.
Yeah.
In a jury foreman in a trial that I interviewed when I got the retrial told me if we had someone else, it might have been different, but we just, they were there, and if it was a jump ball, it went to the state. Now, of course, never mind that's not the standard. You're supposed to find somebody guilty. It's not supposed to be, 50-50 or jump ball. It's supposed to be beyond a reasonable doubt, but that's human nature. If it's not them and you can't prove it was someone else,
You want justice to
in a
be
murder
served in
case,
some way.
You feel like you got to walk away with some sort of decision.
Yeah. I actually had this written down to get to was I had, just different thoughts. Like, could it be Doyle whose gun, who went around saying that his gun was stolen, even though they can't even prove that his gun was the one that was used, right? Or could it have been I just listened to the episode, the guy with 3 names, Billy Bob, whatever. Could it have been him? Because they
Willie James Hempel.
Thank you. Yes, Hempel. Like, could it have been him? And then I realized, wait, it's probably more likely. Like, this isn't like SVU or Castle or any of the Bones, any of the procedural shows out there, CSI. The murderer doesn't have to necessarily have been introduced to us. Like, it's real life. It's not a nice, neat little package. And that, I think, is tough because even like when we go back to Serial, how many Reddit threads upon Reddit threads and internet investigations went on because they were convinced that the person that killed Hae Min Lee, like, the killer had to have been somebody that, we've been introduced and have come across, because she had to have, known her killer. So it has to be somebody that was introduced in the podcast. And that, when you take a step back, that does not necessarily have to be true. Like it, you know what I mean? So I think that that's also, it's tough in real life, like Brian was saying, to not have somebody to lay responsibility down. It's tough as human beings for us to wrap our brains around that, right?
Well, right, especially when it doesn't sound like they look too hard,
Yeah.
Right.
They're like, oh, first convenient black guy.
Right. So
or the third convenient black guy, as we find out.
Lazy policing, lazy district attorneying, by instead of going out and trying to find someone that actually did it. Is it just easier to just try and make this person that you have on the line stick? Like, is that?
And it seems like
strategy.
It seems like they tried with the first two people before they settled on Curtis, just by going off of the shoes, which was pretty much the only real physical evidence, right?
Yeah. So, like, why keep going back over and over and over again when it all seems really like flimsy?
Because they were able to get people who would agree. Like, they coerced all those witnesses into saying that,
So in that case, is like the mentality just to get the win, so to speak, to like get the conviction? Like, is that I think like the whole thing that like, I kept thinking about and listening to this is like, what is in it for Doug Evans to keep trying the same person over and over again, knowing that with each trial, the evidence got faultier and faultier? Like, at a certain point, are you doing it to save face? Like, when do you realize that like this is perhaps not the best path to go down? And I guess I don't understand like why the thought process was to keep moving forward with Curtis Flowers, even though all the evidence was stacking up to the contrary, that it was him.
Well, I think in this case, there's obviously some animus in that community. And it's clear to me in listening that witnesses came in and said, no, those weren't Curtis's shoes, that these were my shoes. Pretty much the black witnesses that agreed with the white prosecutor's version of events were celebrated as wonderful truth tellers. The black witnesses that differed with the prosecutor's version of events were just completely disregarded, despite the fact there was no physical evidence, to underpin the shoes or any of that. But I think, my armchair psychology on this, because I've had a similar situation, and I believe that prosecutors want to lay their head on the pillow tonight and sleep well. And if you have to look in the mirror and realize you cost somebody years of their life, that's a hard realization to accept. So it's easier to double down and stay with it, because if you actually accept that you've done that evil, you're harder to live with. It's harder to live with. Now, you have to have compassion and a soul, and I'm not sure some of the people. And I think from what I heard in this story, the real evil person to me, and I would love to have seen exactly all the notes and everything that his investigator
Joe Johnson.
Yeah.
John Johnson. John Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that guy seemed to be the one that would coerce the witnesses and take notes that were self-serving and omit anything they said that wasn't helpful. And it seemed like people knew he was a guy not to cross in the town.
Right.
So, but at some point, as the prosecutor, you're the head of all law enforcement for that jurisdiction. You have to be responsible for the police officers and say, that's not how we're going to do things, or I'm not going to accept this, or I'm not going to play games. And if you do, you can be effective. If you don't, I mean, the police, let's be honest, that they want to win sometimes too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I had another question to kind of go back to what we were talking about earlier, about how so much of Madeline and her team and how much of their reporting helped bring new evidence and new things to light about the case. So, Brian, can you talk a little more about the relationship between attorneys and reporters and how that works in real life, how that works like in your sort of perfect world scenario? I just think that's really interesting. And we're seeing that now so much more, things like Serial and In the Dark, where reporters are really kind of stepping in and helping attorneys, beef up their case, like bringing new things to light. Like how does that change the game in any way for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, In the Dark was so impressive to me that I actually had a talk with a colleague that, in my belief, that investigation techniques, I almost think that public defenders and people who are defense investigators could learn something from taking a course in journalism, sort of the Northwestern School of Journalism approach to crime reporting. Because the sad reality is this, I don't have one case to work on for a year. My investigator doesn't have one case to work on for a year.
Right.
Thanks to, Madeline's wonderful reporting, they were able to spend more time than you could on almost any case to really dig into things that other people would have missed. And that's why when I hear the defense attorneys get criticized, if somebody went behind me and did all the work that Madeline Barron had done on one of my cases, they would say, oh, why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? And that's not to say it's all right. I wish I had the time that she had to work on one case. But the reality is, for attorneys everywhere, it just doesn't exist. But I think her approach, and I think the journalistic ethic, what's really interesting to me is, and I think that most of us in what I do aren't great at, is like, let's go look at a box of files at the jail and see who all was at the jail. I mean, that's tedious, time-consuming work.
I mean, they found it in, they found the thing about Hemphill in, like, the closed-down factory, right?
Like the plastics factory with mold and, and
it's like, and even they were saying how like a lot of that stuff doesn't even exist at a certain point. Like all the places just purge it.
Right. I think what her comment was that people were like, oh, I can't believe that they had it in such crappy condition. And she was like, well, I'm just glad they had it. Some places didn't even have it.
Right.
So, but I think something else that you learn from listening to her reporting is their ability to work with the clerks and work with the sheriff's office and just go in and always be nice, but never give up.
Yep.
Got them access to things, that it was, I hate to use the old term, like, from old timey stuff, but like the intrepid reporter who just doesn't quit. And it was really inspiring to me. And I think that this work, obviously, it's going to go to the Supreme Court, and if there's anything done on the Batson strikes, which is striking, for a racial work on what Doug Evans has done in his cases, it is phenomenal. And I think all of us should ask when you get done listening to this is, why aren't these statistics kept?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Right.
For real.
Why don't we keep statistics of all jury trials, the racial composition of juries? And, our state doesn't do it. And I guess I'd never thought about it in a systemic way because I'm just doing my little part of it. But when I got done listening to her report, I thought, why aren't we doing this why shouldn't every case be reported to a central agency and we keep these stats? I mean, if you want to make the Constitution, real, then look at what's going on in the system that it's supposed to govern. And she did a great job, I think, of really digging down on that and getting data.
Right. And one of my questions, too, that came up with listening to that was also, why are there no consequences for the prosecution when they do, like, racist
Because they
things?
have no oversight.
Right. But, like, how is that?
Other than the people that elect them, but when you're running unopposed... Yeah.
Right. Like if you have no oversight and you're not keeping these statistics to go back and be able to prove that something racist or unethical was happening. Yeah. It's like, where is the
Although
Where's the
at one
balance
time,
for that check?
He was found a couple of times to have been doing that.
Yes.
And
woman-
still it was just like, okay, well, let's just start over and like same players.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
reset and like what?
Right, and because the instance in which Doug Evans had been found was the gentleman who spent 2 years in jail when he was convicted of raping somebody, and it turns out that the woman in the nursing home, like the evidence,
Yeah.
there was no evidence that she had ever been raped, and like that's just, I don't know. There's a whole Brian.
The whole Brian.
There's a if I could show you an instance of a prosecutor ever being punished for a Brady violation, I would, and I've seen them happen over and over again. They're never held accountable, and it's the same logic as police officers, and that is they have qualified immunity as long as they're doing their job. Now, to my mind, blatantly violating someone's constitutional rights is a little bit beyond the scope of your job. There's a thing, and there's a movement towards prosecutorial accountability, and if you want, there's a movement towards that. But prosecutors aren't supposed to worry about winning; they're supposed to be ministers of justice.
Yeah.
Ethically, they're supposed to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Defense attorneys have a duty to their client. Ethically, we're required to be zealous and to be loyal to our client.
Right.
Prosecutors are supposed to be ministers of justice that are supposed to do justice for the state. Is what Doug Evans is doing justice? The sad thing is the people in his jurisdiction keep voting for him, and he keeps running unopposed. And, I think that the answer to Shandy's question earlier is, why doesn't he get away with it? I think if Doug Evans existed where, Amanda lives, where you live, and maybe Pauline lives, but where he lives, I don't think the people there, they haven't really rallied against Doug Evans. So I think that's why this story is so important, that without Madeline Barron, what would Doug Evanses do to the Curtis Flowers of the world if nobody was watching?
Right.
And who knows how many other Doug Evans are out there?
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Seriously, because that's like one of the things that was sort of blowing my mind as I was listening to the update today was just this thought that so we have this person who allegedly committed a crime, even though all the evidence points to that he didn't, and he can sit and have to waste away in prison for a couple of decades while we figure out, if he really did it or not. And meanwhile, you have somebody else who can infringe upon people's constitutional rights and just have no consequences. And you're how is this for real?
Yeah, justice
I
for
believe,
all, huh?
yes.
Right.
I'll give you an example of a case I have, something that happened, and I told my brother this, and we don't agree on much of anything, and he was shocked by this, so I'll gauge your opinion. I have a case that will go back on a retrial. In the first trial, the police forged a document. And by forged, I mean created a forged document that if you or I did would be a crime.
Right.
Yeah.
They used it to try to obtain information in a way that's not approved in any way, shape, or form. The conviction was subsequently overturned, and in the Supreme Court's order returning it back, it said, well, since we overturned this, you really don't need to mention the police forging that document again in the retrial. So the defense really doesn't need to and is barred from going into talking about that.
The fuck?
Jesus.
Now,
Wow.
call me crazy, but I mean, we appreciate that we get a retrial, but if I committed a felony, I don't think that I would get away with it. And I don't think that someone would say we're never going to talk about that again.
Right. right.
Right.
And just keep doing your job. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're good.
I think you've learned your lesson and you won't do it again. I
Unless-
trust you.
Well, unless if you're Jared Kushner and you repeatedly commit felonies because you can't properly fill out your forms to
Your disclosure forms.
Yeah, your disclosure forms. Then you get do-overs. But yeah, the average person.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, the passes that people get to do things that have real consequences. And I think one of the most stunning things that I heard in the whole series was the Supreme Court justice who said, "Oh, I think this shows the process works." Like, you know, when he's been through all this that many times, and I was like, I don't think
You gotta
this is
trust.
trust the process.
It's like, well, the process. That's the problem. Is again when you narrow in and look at the process for this individual, again, like his life is like they have taken his life. Even
Right. The process doesn't work for all Americans.
Right.
It only works for a specific portion of the population. And it seems as though it's only meant to work for a specific part of the population.
right.
Somewhere out there, Mike is now screaming, "I told you, motherfuckers!" And fuck you in the face. Brian, quick question. In terms of the jury striking, and then to start to wrap this up, everybody start thinking of what their biggest or best moment of the podcast was, just to kind of entice people who've made it this far who haven't listened to listen to it. So start on your pitches, as if this whole last 40 minutes hasn't been a pitch. But Brian, in terms of they're going to the Supreme Court because of the striking the jurors because of their race, is that a thing that happens that you've encountered? Like, is this a Doug Evans thing, or is this an actual issue that you could say is a thing that may not be a thing everywhere, but it may be a thing in certain parts of the country?
It's a thing. And the actual case that sort of set these guidelines is a Kentucky case, Batson versus Commonwealth. And it's not as prevalent, and prosecutors are taught ways to be a lot more subtle than Doug Evans ever was. But I think that with these challenges, we've been trained now in the way to document them, the way to make them, to keep the statistical underpinnings within our case. So those are preserved for the appellate record. And her work to show what Doug Evans's percentages are, I think, is very interesting. And I'll say there was a piece written not long ago that it's unclear, but Gorsuch actually may be decent for criminal defendants. So there may be hope that this doctrine is something that can help Curtis Flowers. It's not hopeless at the Supreme Court. You know, I mean, hey, if the guys there do one thing, maybe they'll help criminal defendants. It probably won't, you know, we'll all die with no regulations and no health care. And, you know,
When we can't breathe
women won't
because
have any control over their bodies. But, you know,
Right.
criminal
Luckily, we
defendants
won't be
have
in
rights.
prison.
We can't have you in prison. You can't see to our needs and have babies if you're in prison. Don't you know that, Colleen? So,
fair enough.
but no, it's actually a real thing, and it'll be interesting to see which way it goes. If it doesn't happen, there is a lot for post-conviction on him, but post-conviction also takes time. And,
Right.
you know, the thing I feel for this guy is being on death row, having had clients on death row. You have 23 hours a day alone. You get 1 hour a day out. How long can you live that way till you just don't care anymore?
Right.
And,
Right.
you know, it's dehumanizing. And when you get out, what's left? You know, after you've spent 23 hours a day alone every day for year upon year. And the real interesting thing would be what Curtis knows about this, what he even thinks about it, because at some level, I'm sure he's he's like, if he's like most of my clients, at a certain point, you don't allow yourself to hope anymore because it's terribly dangerous.
Right. Oh, that's so depressing.
Yeah.
Brian, have you ever appeared before the Supreme Court?
No, I've not, but 3 of my cases were taken by the Supreme Court, and I made law in my state. So
Cool.
So you're kind of a big deal,
You're
is
kind
what
of
you're
a big
saying.
deal.
I did actually have one case. I'd like to tell young lawyers. The thing about appeals is when you win an appeal, people don't get out of jail. They get a new trial.
Right.
I did actually win one appeal where my client was acquitted by operation of law and got to leave prison because the prosecutor and the judge didn't grant me a jury instruction I was legally entitled to. So what he went to prison on, he could not be retried on the lesser offenses because they didn't instruct on those as I requested. So since he couldn't be lawfully tried on those, they had to acquit him by operation of law, and he got to leave prison and walk out like acquitted by the Supreme Court. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That is
That's
pretty
awesome.
cool.
That must be like a good day at the office.
It's awesome to get to call like the prison and tell a caseworker, like, can we schedule a call? And, when I talked to my client, he was like, what? He's like, what? Like he almost didn't believe it. And, so it's pretty cool. Most of the time it's like, hey, your case is coming back and, and then it's, hey, do they make me a plea offer? And if they make me a plea offer, do I just say to hell with it? I don't want to go through all this again and take it, or do you still fight? And
Right.
so, at Raleigh over beers, I'll tell you stories. But this today is the update today kind of triggered me because it's sort of something I've been going through the last couple of weeks. So
yeah. So I actually have a more general question for you since we have you on the line. It's something that I sort of think about from time to time. It's just like a part of me like really can't believe that in 2018 we still send people to prison. Like I understand that there are people who do bad things and we need to deal with that as a society, but the idea of isolating them in a prison together in an environment that's dehumanizing and there's even, especially not even to say like people that are on death row. And I can't believe that as a society we execute people. That's a whole other question. But everything leading up to that is just so, I don't know. It just seems it's so barbaric. And I'm just sort of blown away sometimes. It's so normalized because that's the world that we live in. But when you stop to really think about it, it really sort of blows my mind that this still exists. And I don't know, like being sort of part of, the defense and trying to keep people out of prison, I would be really interested to know like what you think in general.
I think that I'm optimistic that with drug laws, we're becoming more forgiving. And with, we have a thing called like uncheck the box, like get rid of felony convictions as a way to stop screening people for employment. Because we have so many convicted felons, in the United States.
Yeah.
And I guarantee Amanda's heard this, but you've all probably heard it. We have 5% of the world's population and 20% of the world's incarcerated adults.
Yep.
I mean, the land of the free is less free than China and Russia and everywhere else.
I mean, I literally know someone in France who will not come to the United States because for him, the risk of being, the wrong place at the wrong time and falsely accused and like sent to prison for life, which is something that doesn't happen in France, is just too high for him to come here. And I do think that that's a little bit crazy, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, maybe you have a point.
Yeah.
Right. But based in, some
sort of
close version, but actuality in some way.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy. And, there are, but I'm hopeful. I see the programs to stop diverting people, especially for drug offenses, to jail. I think we need to really evaluate when people go to prison, if it's serious enough to go to prison, do we want them to come out and rejoin society or not? And
right.
I mean, clearly we don't, because like we haven't set up a system that works, because recidivism is rampant. So clearly, we're not doing. People go to prison and become criminals.
They do, but it's not as rampant as you would believe. What's rampant isn't the type of crime that you should lay awake at night. Like, there are 10% of the serious violent criminals that if we incarcerated, most of the ill effects of society would be greatly diminished. And the problem is we have large budget prisons, and we have probation officers and supervision programs and billions of dollars in those programs, that if we get rid of the criminals, quote unquote, they're there to serve, what are all those people going to do for jobs? It's a complex. It's an industrial
private
complex.
Prisons.
Yeah, that's crazy. I joke because it's such an uncomfortable reality.
So terrible. Right?
Like, it's just a very uncomfortable reality.
At it.
Well, I would encourage your listeners, if any of you find or know someone that can participate in a like jail or prison ministry program, and I'm not talking about religion or but anything to go in. I've been in jails and prisons for 22 years, and like 1 or 2 times in my life have I been afraid. They're just people, and I've met many of them who were extremely noble and had codes and honor, and I've met some that were just dumb, but I've never walked away afraid or terrified in a way that when you watch the news, you would believe. And most of the craziest things you hear and see are, we don't deal with our mentally ill. We let them commit crimes and we put them in prison.
Yeah. All right. So why should everybody give their best pitch? Why should, other than the awesome reporting that really does unfold just beautifully, why should everybody listen to In the Dark? Amanda, go. Season 2. By the way, season 1 is also fantastic. I definitely recommend checking that out too.
I listened to season 1, but that's a whole other story. But speaking of story, I think, yes, the journalistic integrity is really great, but I think also the intention to story and to story arc. I know in the Q&A that they released today, they talked a little bit about the thought process that went into that. And I'm really glad they did talk about it, because there really was a lot of intention put into how they shaped the story episode by episode, but also just as the entire season. I know for me personally, it took a couple episodes to really get invested. So for people who start listening and like episode 1 and 2, they're having a hard time following along, hard time sticking with it. I was there, I was you. And I think for me, it really around like episode 3 or 4, and I can't remember exactly what it was that like grabbed me, but it was just all of a sudden, like at a moment, you're just like, oh, I get it. I'm invested. Like, this is fascinating. Yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Shandy?
Sort of similar. Like, I don't have any one specific thing, but I will say I agree that it took me a couple of episodes. I mean, it was interesting enough, but it took a couple of episodes for me to really get to the place where, like, anytime I had a spare second, I was listening to it.
Yes.
And it really sort of took over my life to the point that a couple of nights I fell asleep listening to it, which is something that I do not do. Like, that is not me. I have my whole bedtime routine. Like, it's very specific, and I don't listen to podcasts while I'm going to bed. And so then I would wake up the next day and have to like go back and re-listen to parts of an episode because I had fallen asleep during it. Like, I was dreaming about it. It just really took over my life. And, for the 10 to 15 hours or whatever of content. And when it was over, it was kind of like, can I listen? Like, what do I listen to? Like, yeah. So it's worth your time. And now every time there's an update, it's the same. It's like, oh, there's an update. So any free time I have today, I'm going to be listening to that because there's an update.
Yeah.
Brian?
Well, I will say, I think that if you want a story that answers almost every question that pops in your head, which they do an amazing job of that, but also really touches the humanity from interviewing, some of the victims, their families, and Curtis's family. And I thought the objectivity with which Madeline and her team started with this story and steered it whichever direction it went in a search for truth is something that's really inspiring. And, if you want an antidote to fake news, this is about 100 million% the opposite of anything you could ever call fake news. This is badass reporting that really tells a story that has its facts straight and shows the human side. And I can't recommend it enough. It also it touches on the courtroom and it touches on the legal issues, but it touches on the heart. It touches on who we are as people.
Yeah.
And so, I hope it wins an award. I hope it wins the, what's the, is it the Peabody?
They won the Peabody Award for
yeah.
the first season.
Oh, they did?
Yeah,
I hope
season
they
1 is so
repeat.
good.
Yeah.
I hope they repeat.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, and Brian, it's great to have your expertise and insight into this. But one of the things that I really appreciated about the podcast too was that it does get into the legal and all of that stuff, but they're very good at putting it in layman's terms. So you don't need to have a background in that to understand and follow and understand what's going on.
Yeah, and they don't make you feel like you're in preschool by explaining it out.
Right.
I agree with what all of you guys said. I think it's very inspiring in a world where, because I was thinking about this today, in a world where every day the news is so just, it's a circus, it's a shit show. It's just, everything it's crazy. Either the planet's going to blow up or the president is having antics or, we can't eat lettuce anymore. There's just something going on all of the time, and it's exhausting. That it's inspiring to see, but on that front, you look and you're like, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Nothing is ever going to happen. It's very inspiring to see journalism that has a purpose and that is actually really could save somebody's life, and no thread goes unpulled, and then the other 5 threads that follow don't go unpulled. It's incredible, and it's a very well told story, and I am very glad to have been lucky enough to discover it and listen to it.
Right. Oh, and we would be remiss if we didn't bring up the fact that this is all
Female reporters?
publicly funded.
Oh, publicly funded.
True. Yes.
So, and I say that this is only a public media entity could do this kind of journalism. And to a large extent, that is true. And I do mean that. But that's not to say that this is cheap. Going and living in a place to do that kind of long-term reporting is really expensive. And while winning all the awards is great and helpful, I think it's important for us to remember that this is publicly funded, which means it is something we can actively contribute to by funding and making, supporting.
Yes.
So,
I donated today for Giving Tuesday.
I think a lot of times I feel like I don't know how I can help or what I can do to fix a broken system, but I can throw APM $10, $20 and at least I have done something to help them fund season 3 and whatever other great thing they're going to go shine a light on.
Exactly. All right. Brian, to lighten the mode before you go, I found a fun Twitter hashtag today that you will probably appreciate as well. And it is hashtag Beatles songs for millennials.
Beatles songs for millennials.
Yes. Okay. You ready? Here's an example. Okay, everybody. Can't buy me love or a house or insurance or avocado toast or anything really. Fair trade, organic strawberry fields forever. Hey Jude, send nudes.
Oh wow.
This one's my favorite, but it's more of a visual one. It's Yas, WASS, yesterday, like yesterday.
Nice.
Here comes the sun to heat up the atmosphere and make life unsustainable for thousands of species and create a global refugee crisis. We can twerk it out. Yellow hybrid submarine. Paperback blogger. I'm almost done. She loves YouTube. Yeah. I get by with a little help from my parents. We all live in a yellow Airbnb. This one's intellectual. Bitcoin Lane. Across the Twitterverse. And then finally, twist and shout your Starbucks order. Alexa in the sky with diamonds. Hard Bay's night. I mean, my Alexa is now playing.
Well, it's your turn.
All right, I'm trying to stop at like a good one, but like they're all so great. Okay, that's done. I'm gonna have to stop it there.
Nice.
Okay,
Good.
yeah.
Good find.
Yeah. Oh, the Fool on the Hill. There we go. And scene. Okay, but yes, thank you so much, Brian, for joining us.
Yes.
Yay, Brian.
Yay.
Hey, it was great. It was great to join you all. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Thank you.
Have a lovely evening, and we'll catch you next time for season 3.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes, and see you in May.
And see you
Yeah,
in May.
see you in May.
Hey.
Yay! Bye. All right, let's get into some farting in your facey back. What? This is from Randy. He says, on my long Thanksgiving morning drive to visit family for the holiday, I stopped and bought coffee and a bagel at Dunkin' Donuts. Being the huge raisin fan that I am, I ordered a cinnamon raisin bagel toasted with cream cheese. I drove away and to my dismay soon discovered that my much craved cinnamon raisin bagel was a sesame seed bagel. I was severely disappointed and distraught. I would like to attribute the mistake to the fact that the person who took my order appeared to not be a native English speaker and that my quickly slurred cinnamon raisin was heard as sesame seed. But more likely it was just the Broads universe exacting revenge on the raisin lovers of the world. # raisin resistance.
Yep.
Or just trying to do you a solid.
We put it out there in the universe, and the universe gives you a better bagel.
I guess if you're going to put, if I was going to do cinnamon raisin, I would do it with butter to not mask the taste of the cinnamon raisin. But it sounds like he puts cream cheese on it because he'd rather taste cream cheese than cinnamon raisin.
Right. Or what about like a fruity cream cheese, like a strawberry cream cheese on a cinnamon raisin? Because then it just all feels a little like dessert.
That just doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
I would say
cinnamon and strawberry. That sounds good.
I guess you put strawberry on carrot cake, but it's not like it. Not strawberry on carrot
You
cake.
put strawberry on carrot cake?
No, you don't. You put cream cheese on carrot cake.
yeah. Well, I would say if you're going to go with bagels, I would go with plain and cream cheese.
No, sesame
Everything.
all the way. Sesame toasted
Everything.
with a lot of butter because then it tastes like Italian bread with butter, which was what I was raised
yeah, that's
on.
fair. I can get behind that.
Bagels with butter?
Oh,
Yeah.
toasted with
If
butter.
it's a good bagel, because then you're getting the flavor of the bagel and not just the cream cheese.
Then because the butter is melting in, you
I
get
mean,
flavor
but the
of
cream
everything,
cheese
and
is where
it's just
Yeah. I mean, I still prefer the cream cheese, but Carl, I get where you're going, and I like it.
for both.
I mean, I could eat that. I'm not saying I wouldn't eat
That's
it,
what
but
she
I'm
said.
just saying that. I'm just saying that as I was eating it, I would be thinking, too bad this doesn't have cream cheese.
I don't know. For the first trimesters of both of my pregnancies, I ate a hell of a lot of sesame bagels toasted with butter. Also, just all the time because I do love them. But my preference is everything with butter because everything has salt on it, and then you get
the best. Everything but raisins.
Yeah.
there are no raisins on everything bagels.
And generally, I would agree with you on butter. Like, butter is amazing.
It is.
But cream cheese.
I mean, cream cheese is okay.
Yeah.
It's like if you have the option of cream cheese, like,
Well, it depends on the cream cheese.
I will
I'm like a veggie. Actually, my old bagel place that I used to live above, they had a jalapeno cheddar cream cheese. That was like, no. Oh, it was so good. It was so good with an everything bagel. It was so many
cream
flavors.
cheese, it's supposed to taste like cream. That's the beauty of it. That's why it's cream cheese.
Oh, but it's so boring that way. You gotta have the things happening. That's why I like the everything bagel. I just need chaos in my food.
Okay.
Every flavor all at once.
I do agree with that. Maybe that's a northeastern thing. Maybe it's a New York thing. But
I think it's
okay.
like cream. I'm like a farm girl at heart, apparently.
We don't have time for your individual flavors. We got to get them all done. We got to get them done fast.
Oh, just give me the cream. All the cream.
All right.
That's what
All
she
the
said.
cream.
All the cream.
Janice says, I'm a little late, but I am thankful for the broadcast and all the contributors. Thanks, Janice.
Thanks,
Oh,
Janice.
thank you.
And then Matt comes along and ruins our fun by telling us that the cell phone stuck in the vagina story was false.
Oh,
To be fair, Amanda and I called that shit.
yeah.
I know, but still.
Colleen, you like want it to be true.
It's so crazy.
Yes, true.
It's just so crazy. But yes, all right. It was false. It was fake news. Nah. All right. There's really no reason to go back into that. But yeah. Okay, so it was fake news. Thanks, Matt. And that was hashtag Mattsplaining. And then going into Matt's, what she says, I did pay attention, but I didn't want to stop looking at myself.
I can get behind that.
Yep.
I was experimenting. I need to make my own gravy.
I'm going to make some gravy after we're done here.
We'll
It's also
try
not
to.
as fun when the person that actually said it reads it back.
We'll try to get done at a reasonable hour for us, aka 11.
This is my pre-gravy.
A petition to remind me that next year our pre-Thanksgiving episode has to be called pre-gravy.
Oh, write that down. Write that down.
Somebody write that down. I'm not going to
Oh,
have the same notebook in a year.
Yeah, I won't remember. It was double digits within 5 days.
You're going to have to start doing this.
I'm just going to ride that out until somebody tells him about it.
Your mouth is like, what is going on here?
At first, they performed for us.
I even tried cherry pie.
I barely got a little.
You'll just have to pull it off. Sorry. You'll just have to pull it.
Say it with feeling, Shandy.
You'll just have to pull it.
Nice. I know that handle.
We really are going to do Sabrina. Oh, I did Sabrina. It's awesome. I can't wait to
I
talk
did
about
the
it.
first 2 episodes, and then I couldn't sleep Monday night. Or no, Sunday. I watched it on Sunday, and then I read some of the most recent Cormoran Strike book, and then I couldn't sleep.
Holy shit. Okay. So I was actually telling my coworker today, she was like, I don't like scary things. Should I watch Sabrina? And I was like, it's not too bad. I mean, out of the
I
whole...
got through it.
Yeah, out of the
Right.
whole
No, and it's not
time,
that it
there
was-
was only twice when I was mildly afraid that I had to keep the door open in the middle of the night when Alex woke up and I was trying to put him back to
Right.
sleep.
Well, and to be fair, it's not that I was scared. I think it was just overstimulating for that
Yeah.
late at night.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome, though.
Yeah. Yes, no, it's very good. I very much enjoy it, but I think I have to watch it like earlier in the evening. I can't watch it at like 10 o'clock and
That
then
makes
prepare to go to bed. Like it was too much for the brain space.
Because at 10 o'clock, you should already be in bed.
It doesn't always work. Get all
That literally
riled up.
never works for me. Okay, let's finish. It's really small on my screen.
I haven't gotten down that far.
Let's finish up with Andy's virginity. Just finish it.
We can all take turns on this.
There you go. I'm really glad the universe decided to put this one next in the rotation because it is my favorite.
I'll finish up.
I didn't actually find it by myself.
Shandy, you go first. I need to think about it.
I don't know why this is so hard.
Nice. Very good.
Awesome. All right. So, as we speak, I have just added a reminder to my phone for November 19th, 2019, which would be the Tuesday that is the week before Broadsgiving, that the event is now called, broadcast is called Pre-Gravy.
Perfect.
Nice.
We have an email from JP, but again, what you're once again, Matt Damon, JP. We're going to push this off for next week, but I did get a message from JP today that was talking about something, and the context was, I've had this newspaper clipping for over 20 years. Your show had the hand job. Your show about the hand job article reminded me of this, and I had to dig it up from my boxes. That's what she said. This article was a story about a young man who bowled, as in bowling, and ambidextrously. In 2 back-to-back games, he bowled 300 with opposite hands. Here's read the highlighted paragraph. Okay, here's the highlighted paragraph. I will alternate games, said Gale, who also changed shoes when he changed hands for the cushioning they give his planting foot. I'll bowl 3 or 4 righty and then switch to lefty. Sometimes I even beat myself with my left hand. It depends on the lane. Good times. Thanks, JB, for that wonderful addition to my life. And then, as always, we will finish up with a This Week in Andy's Virginity.
All right, so we have a quickie. Hey, Broads. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving and that following his first Thanksgiving as an American citizen, Frank fared well in his first fist fight at the Best Buy on Black Friday. I will say, we didn't go to Best Buy on Black Friday, but we've been doing this thing now since he became American a little over a month ago, where everything, it's like, oh, first time as an American citizen.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, first poop as an American citizen, first drink as an American citizen.
Get behind all those.
Yes, we definitely had a moment at the table of, oh, first Thanksgiving as an American citizen. So Andy continues, as for that other first, there will be no need for stuffing or buy puns just yet. Another quiet week on that front. Still talking with Alice, although I don't think we'll be able to meet up anytime soon. Understandable since it is the holiday season, but maybe that'll change before your last show of the year. We'll just have to wait and wait and wait and see. Hashtag I'm with hers, Andy.
Nice.
I hope you had a great Thanksgiving too, Andy.
Yes.
Yep. I hope there was plenty of pie.
Yes. Or chocolate cake with chocolate sauce. And
really anything with chocolate
cookies.
sauce. Yeah, can't go wrong.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Agreed. Happy Thanksgiving again, Andy. All right. Well, I guess on that note, again, sorry, JP. I promise we're going to get to you next week. I promise.
It's honestly, it's like a backhanded compliment because we want to have enough time to actually
and
answer
that's what
all
it
of your
is.
questions.
Without making this like a 4-hour episode.
Yeah.
But okay, so before Brian left, I was fishing around to try to find the hashtag Beatles songs for millennials that had gotten me kicked off on the whole thing, and I couldn't find it, and that's why I was like hedging a little bit, but I found it, and it is Happiness is a Band Gun. No?
Yeah.
Okay. And then another one that I found that I loved was Hello, parentheses, swipe left, goodbye.
Nice.
Yeah, just this is the hashtag that literally keeps on giving. Here comes the student loans.
Do 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 ching. Do 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 ching.
Can't swipe me, love. Can't swipe. Oh, and I saw her Snapchatting there. I could keep going, but I'm going to have to stop. So, Amanda, you had a recommendation before we go, right?
So I, in theme with In the Dark, I have been listening to More Imperfect, which is a spin-off podcast from Radiolab from WNYC. And I have just been loving it. It's so this season, I believe it's season 2, they made an album a la Schoolhouse Rock, and each song is about one of the amendments to the Constitution. Yeah. So like they just like put out a blanket statement to all these different artists. So like Dolly Parton does the one about women getting the right to vote. And the list goes on and on from there. And then each episode of the podcast is like what they're calling a liner note of the song. And it sort of goes into depth about like what the amendment is and how it's relevant. And it's just been such an enjoyable listen. And I just, yeah, I've been loving it. So if you enjoyed In the Dark, like you're into that kind of thing and you want something a little lighter, a little more exuberant, I would very much recommend it.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to put that in the show notes. So everybody, scroll down on your iPhone, not your iPod, because apparently that's not a thing anymore.
Or your iPod. I mean, if you've got one that still works, give it a whirl. See if it works. See if you can find it.
See if you can find the charger.
Oh, mine just lives on my iHome, so it I think it probably has like a 5-minute charge if I took it off.
Fair. But on that note, I also want to submit for your approval because I literally can't stop scrolling at these. Paid for Clicks writer, and I know, right? And will there be any money left in Social Security when I'm 64?
No.
Okay, well, I thought it was funny. Thank you to the patrons. If you'd like to be a patron, go to patreon.com/JayandJack, or you can go to jayandjack.com and click on the Become a Patrons link that's in the right-hand side. I know that December is a tough month for people financially, but we do have a couple of patron shows that are planned. I believe that we are recording our Patrons' Choice show this week. I believe Amanda's going to be on it. Matt will be on it. I will be on it. Jay will be on it. And it's going to be, I think, funny work stories. So keep an eye out for that because that's the thing that's happening. The that's Patrons Choice show. If you're a $5 a month more, the Patron Hangout is the $15 a month or more level. And that should be happening possibly this weekend or next Monday. So stay tuned for that as well. We have more than just that. We're going to have another Fartgate show that's coming out, special in December. I am trying to talk Nick into doing a recurring patron show that's a one-man show that I have pitched him now twice. And I think that everybody will really like it. And it was a Dennis idea, so thanks, Dennis, for that. I kind of...
color me intrigued.
Yes, I Columbused your idea, Dennis. And I've been trying to pitch it to Nick. And then we're going to do a special hangout in December. The thing that we keep talking about, and I think that's going to be an all patrons level hangout. So I don't know. We'll see, though. But anyway, we've got some fun things planned for the end of the year. If you'd like to shop through the Amazon affiliates link, you can do so, especially if you want a raclette cheese warmer. The more expensive, the better. And that would be...
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself. That would be jayandjack.com/Amazon. And if you want merchandise, if you'd like to check out the store, you can go to jayandjack.com/store. I think that's about it for me. I have stopped. I mean, I'm still looking at, okay. Can I just do one more round of Beatles things?
By all means.
Okay, and then we're going to get the fuck out of here. And really, I'm the only one that suffers from this because it's more for me to edit. Can't Venmo me love. Come on, that's funny. All right, anyway, I got to stop because otherwise I will not stop. Thank you to Brian for talking to us about In the Dark. Check that out, guys. It will be consuming your waking everything. On that note, my name is Colleen.
My name is Amanda.
And I'm Shandy.
Peace out, guys. Don't forget not to put beef in the trifle.
See you later.
Bye.